So, for example, if you're in a raid, your target assists, targets a healer, and you say, right, everyone on him. We're gonna kill the opposing healer, but, you know, in raids, we clear the crowd control. Hi everyone, it's Aga. Today we're back with a new guide video on the Warg Shadow. So in this video we'll be looking at the traits, a few tips and the rotations you can do with the Warg. And just to clarify before we start the guide, this is a guide on the Warg Shadow that's intended for group play. So a group of 6 or for a raid, that's it. It's not for one-on-one play. It's not about being the best duelist on the planet, that's not the point. Here, the focus will mainly be on the Warg in a group setting. Even though I know that for many players, the Warg Shadow is considered bad in groups and so on. We'll come back to that point later. Right, let's get started straight away with the traits. So when it comes to corruption traits, I put in 4 vitality and 2 critical defense to be as resilient as possible, because the Warg Shadow is very squishy, so you still need some critical defense and vitality. I put in 4 mastery traits because, well, you still need some damage, and I put in 2 criticals to at least get the first set buff. And to have more criticals, because you have abilities that require a critical reaction. So I reckon it's good to have at least a few. As for racial traits, I've got 4-legged foyer to move faster. So when you're in a group, you'll often be asked to go and scout, so you need to be able to move fairly quickly. So for me, that's essential. I've got the Hunter pack, so that's an active ability there, in case you're a beginner and you want to get started with the Warg. It gives you an active that applies a debuff. You can see the heal and everything. We'll come back to that in detail later. The Hall of Unloving is the same. It's a debuff that can apply a fear effect. So, it's the same. It's an active ability that's here. I use the Whip of the Light to reduce tactical damage. And I finish with the pack leader to get more damage and a higher chance of critical hits. For class traits, I equip Enhanced Skill Disappear to get my Vanish back more quickly. Enhanced Skill Ace Rake as well, so I can spam this ability here. For me, it's one of your most important abilities for a lot of things, not just for damage. I'll go into detail about that in the tips section. Of course, improved sprint to recover more quickly. The armor buff. Long stride to move even faster. Enhanced skill stealth to move more quickly and to have a higher chance of critical hits. And some spray, so that's what will allow you to improve your tracking and detect stealth enemies and so on. So, as for tribe traits, when you're in a group, for me it's a must. Put on White End. You're too squishy to play with anything else, and it will still give you a fair bit of DPS. Then if you're doing Warp Pack, well, I don't do much Warp Pack myself, but when I do, I quite like playing a Skara. Warp Pack is an exception, but if you're in a normal group, and especially in a raid, then definitely put on White Hand, because otherwise, honestly, your healers just won't be able to keep you alive. You'll be dying all the time, it'll be a nightmare. Seriously, put on White Hand. Just to clarify, this is for playing. Shadow, Flyer, that's something else entirely. So that was for the traits. So let's put Shadow back on. Before we start, I'd like to clarify something with you. After all, this is just my point of view, you can do with it as you wish. I mentioned it in a video where I made a tier list, so yes, I do share the opinion of other players that Warg Shadow is a bit of a weak class, let's say, in raids. Well, in groups, I think it's still alright, but in raids, it's true that it's quite a difficult class to really play well in raids. You really need the healers to heal you a lot. You've got quite a bit of support, and you really need to master your class very, very well to be effective in a group. But that doesn't mean it's rubbish. Because, for starters, just your role as a scout, giving information to your team without risking getting yourself killed, without the enemy being able to see you. That's already very powerful. You're the only one who can track hobbits. That's also very strong. The Warg Shadow still has a few controls and some debuffs that are very, very useful for your team. Your damage can be quite decent if you strike from behind and land critical hits. So it's not a rubbish character either. Personally, I just think it might deserve a little buff from CSG, not necessarily to its damage, but to its resistances. Perhaps some extra armour so it can hold out a bit longer in a group. Right, so we'll move straight on to the chips now. So for the Warg Shadow, there are quite a few. The first thing I wanted to look at with you is about the sprite. A lot of people make the mistake of just reading the spell like that. Be careful if you're a beginner. There are a few traps in the spell descriptions, so you'll see. Here it says that I've got plus 200% speed. So yes, when you do this, indeed, you can see here that I've got a 200% sprint. You can see I'm moving very quickly. Even if I go into combat, I keep this speed. However, if you hit the target first, or the target hits you, you'll see there's only a 50% increase in run speed. That means, in fact, if you're in combat before activating the sprint, your sprint won't be at 200%. It'll be 50 and it lasts for 4 seconds, so don't get caught out by that. It's still a massive difference. You'll get it back in 30 seconds, so you'll recover it faster than if you triggered it outside of combat. But you'll be moving much, much more slowly, and on top of that, you don't have immunity during the sprint, so you can be stunned, you can be rooted, you can be feared. There you go, you'll be hit with all sorts of crowd control. With experience, you need to know, in groups, when to use the sprint before combat, and when to use it during combat. That's something you'll pick up gradually as you play. You'll get a feel for it. Sometimes it's better to use it beforehand, sometimes it's better to use it afterwards. It'll depend, but don't get caught out by that. There you have it, that's it. That was the first thing I wanted to show you. Now, if you like, I'll show you the difference in speed. Here, you see, I hit the dummy, I press, and now you can see that I'm going much, much, much slower, and I no longer have the sprint. So as you can see, the sprint is very weak. There you go. So then, as I said, this skill, the High Coach, is one of your most important skills among your abilities. As a matter of fact, it is primarily due to this particular feature that you will be able to efficiently trim down your various animations. To cut an animation means that there are some spells where you'll have a very long animation, you'll lose DPS potential, and you'll be able to cancel this problem with this skill. We're going to look at the Hall of Unroving. So you'll see here, I'm just going to activate it like this, in the open. You can see that it's quite a long animation. We've got the same animation here. So we'll wait for the skill to come back, and you'll see that this time I'll activate this skill. But you'll hardly see it at all. You'll barely see the animation. And yet the debuff is definitely on the target. Please be fully aware that you can easily cancel the entire Hall of Honouring animation sequence simply by making use of your coach's specific abilities to save yourself some valuable time. As I mentioned just before, you can also cancel the animation for the Hall from the Shadow. I'll do it in front of you. You can see there. I managed to, well, I think I messed it up, but You can see there was hardly any animation for the skill, and yet I definitely hit all 3 Donnies. So don't do this too much, because I'll come back to this spell a bit later. There's another tip with it. The animation cutting used earlier on the Hall of Unloving, I'll show you a second skill that you can cut. It's this one, Shadow Fangs. I'll do it once without cutting the animation. Here I hit, but there's animation that carries on, which is very long and serves no purpose. In fact, it's as simple as that. So this time I'm going to cut the animation again as usual with the Aiko Uchi. So this time I cut it. There you go, you can see that I've cancelled it, I'm back, and I can use other skills. I'm casting them in any order, it doesn't matter. So remember, you must always cut this spell. When you're playing in a group, try to engage with this spell. If you're in stealth, you can use a stun or a beastly close. But quickly, use this spell to apply the debuff, which is still very powerful. You reduce tactical and physical mitigation, block, parry and evade. And you have a 5% chance to fear, which is very useful for your group. At the start of the fight, remember to activate the spell. You can see here, you barely notice the animation, yet the debuff is definitely there. It's very useful for you and your team. So, that was the first tip I wanted to share with you. So, let's move straight on to the next one. Now, this tip is more about understanding how you'll survive in raids, and possibly in groups as well. So, your main survival spells. In groups and raids, for me, it's not the sprint, because you might be at 50% and you'll often get caught. Root, stun, fear, all that. So your main survival spells when you're in a group are obviously your Disappear, which is your main vanish spell, and your All from the Shadow. So you can see that it can silence targets. That's actually very useful for your raid as well. But you can also trigger a sort of Disappear. So a second Disappear, where you'll be able to go into stealth during combat like Vanish. You can see here that I'm in stealth. And actually, the advantage of this is that you'll disappear from your target screen and you won't be able to be selected anymore. So be careful, let me point out, you'll still take area damage, you'll still take any damage over time effects that were put on you beforehand, but you can't be, for example, the leader of the opposing team can't say focus lower, because you'll have disappeared from the screen. You can't be targeted. So that's very useful for surviving. And of course, the second, it's the Disappear, which is the more classic Vanish. That one, you know. Keep that in mind, that you have this. In fact, as a Shadow, you don't have just one, but 2 Vanishes. And you need to use them to survive. What does it mean to use them to survive? It means that when you feel you're about to be massively focused, you need to use a Vanish. Quite simply. For example, you've lost a quarter of your health and you feel like everything's about to come crashing down on you. Use one of your 2 Vanishes. They're your main survival spells when you're playing in a raid. Sprint can help, but it's a bit trickier. It's not great. Honestly, in raids, I'd even recommend using it more outside of combat. Firstly, because actually you'll be jumping into the thicker things like that, you see. Going in to deal your damage, do your rotations, your crowd control, whatever. It depends on what your raid needs. Here I'm just throwing things out in no particular order, don't matter. And you see, if you save your sprint, you can, for example, get back to your team over there, take cover behind a wall, like that. There you go, that's more how it works in raids. That's my view on sprint, because 50% and on top of that you can still be stunned. Personally, I think it's far too weak. It's not what's going to keep you alive. There you go. So that was the second tip for this spell here, All from the Shadow. It can silence targets, but I advise you not to use it just for control. use it as a survival spell. So, for example, if I'm being focused, I use it. I'm in stealth, I've vanished, and I can reposition myself. I wait for some healing, and as soon as I get some, for example, I go back in. Use it as a survival spell. I'll give you yet another tip with the Hey Coach. I told you there were quite a few. When you're in stealth, well, it's written on the spell, but I see a lot of people underestimate this move. You can actually nerf your opponent's range. You can see here that there's less, 10% less skill range. So that's very interesting. On LMs, arcanes, minstrels, hunters. There you go. It's not huge, but be aware that you have a little debuff like that, which can be useful. For example, if you have an ally who's running away and a hunter behind them, you can, if you're in stealth. And for example, if the hunter has a control immunity, so, you know, a control immunity is when you use, say, a potion, a store potion, well, you get the idea. You can sneak up like that and apply a range debuff to them. The slow effect. And that might just save your ally. It's a small detail, but still, it's worth knowing. Next, for the following type. It's nothing crazy, but a lot of people forget about it. You've got this spell here that interrupts targets, and by the way, it's your spell for knocking targets off their mount. You know, when you sprint and you're sneaking up behind someone who's on their mount, well, use this spell, the prunts. So when you're in stealth, it turns into sudden prunts, and you'll be able to knock them off with a stun. You can see here, there's a stun, and the bloke will fall off his mount. Every time, except if you miss, of course, it can happen, but that's another story. The next tip I wanted to share with you is your second interrupt, because there is a second one, and it's this one, Flay Beaten. You can see it's written there, interrupt induction every 5 seconds. As well as applying a debuff. You can even cast it at range. It can hit several targets, but be careful, they do need to be fairly close to each other. You can see here there's the interrupt, and here there's the debuff. Now be careful, it can be cleansed. So people can remove it, but just because it can be cleansed doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. It's particularly effective against elemental mages, for example, or holy priests. Don't hesitate to use it on them because they cast a lot and it will really annoy them. So keep that in mind. Next, the following tip I wanted to share with you about Shadow Warg is the Shadow Pack. So, you know, it's when you do a Wii like this. There you go, it's my favourite skill. I quite like having a Wii on people. I don't see what the problem is. I'm sure you like having a Wii as well. And actually, it applies a debuff when you're in the area and a 25% reduction on heals. So what's the problem? As I just said, it's that you have an area. When the person leaves the area, the debuff is gone. So the person gets their heals back. So, at a push, you can. For example, when you're in action, you can do that and stun the target inside for a short while. Right, that can work. For example, if the target is nearly dead, you do that. It can work if you have allies. But there you go, the tip I wanted to share with you. When you're in a group, so I'll wait to get out of combat. There we are. So you can see here that I'm definitely in Shadow. So, for example, if you're in a raid, your target assists, targets a healer, and you say, right, everyone on him. We're gonna kill the opposing healer, but, you know, in raids, we clear the crowd control. Everyone's moving about, running, there are sprints and so on. Well, what I suggest is that you come onto the target. You cast a spell like this, and you're gonna deactivate Shadow. Yes, you heard right, you're gonna deactivate Shadow. And here, you're going to use the Hunter's Pack. And you can see that on the target, a little flag appears. This little flag is one of the buffs that provides less than 30% healing. It disappeared there because it's a mannequin, it's poorly made. We're gonna ask Mr. Warg to make a smaller. Mr. Warg will let us proceed with the demonstration. So here I'm stoning my slow. Let's say it's a heal. So here I apply the flag and you can see here that there's a marker. Plus 5% incoming damage and minus 30% incoming healing. Modifier. You have plus 5% from the healing buffs. On top of that, if it was the area I showed you just before, then actually it never goes away. Now be careful, you can see here that my pack hunter is highlighted. You can see there's a little light spinning around it. As long as that's active, there's a little flag on the person. However, if I move too far away, there you go, it cancels itself. You can see here that there's no longer a flag and the debuff is gone as well. So you really need to stay close to the target. So actually, when you do this, you immediately apply your slow afterwards. Alright, so there you go. You already know this spell anyway. Clip in by it, so you can do that, then apply the slow. You could even, at a push, if you want to apply a stun, the person gets focused, and here you'll really be reducing on a permanent basis as long as you're next to the target the healing they receive. So this is extremely powerful. And of course, if the target goes down, you can reactivate the shadow. No worries, so keep this in mind. It's very underrated, it's very strong, though a bit technical, because you really have to stay close to the target. If need be, you can even use your sprint in combat to try and stay close to the target. That's what I do, I use it to try and stay close to the target. Like that, there you go, I apply slows as I did, just like that, and I'll try to keep the flag on the target. So those were, let's say, the tips I wanted to share with you. As far as the Warg is concerned, Ola. So now we're going to move on to some of the small rotations you can do with the Warg. Right then. When you're in a group or a raid, you don't have a single rotation that you'll use all the time. Yes, there is a certain order to your abilities, but sometimes you'll need to, as I did, remove the shadow, apply the healing debuff. You'll need to use your survival ability to get away, apply flip it into yourself. You'll need to put on a debuff. Okay, it's not just about DPS and rushing in like a mad dog. You're in stealth, you approach your target, so you can use your stun, which is here. You can apply the range debuff to them. If you want, you can use Bestial Claws for a crit and to give them a good burst of damage. And then you'll need to use debuffs on the target first and then your DPS abilities. We'll rather do this on the Warg because the training dummy's a pain. It resets, it's a nuisance. You come in stealth. Right, let's say the target has already been stunned, it's not a healer, I'm not a champion. Alright, let's say it's a champion, go on then. You use this, then you apply the slow, so if you're in a raid, remember the debuff. For your team, you can cancel the animation. You're going to use snap to debuff the target, alright? And then, so here, use this spell if you land a critical hit to increase the damage they take. You can reactivate it. If you want to apply the dot, you can cancel the animation. I haven't got time to show you the whole rotation, but there you go. You can then use this to apply the debuff to them. And apply a dot to them, because when you use beaten first, and then this spell afterwards you see here, there's Savage Wound which applies a dot to them. What I quite like to do in my rotation, right, I use this, so now I can't use this spell anymore. Right, I've landed another critical hit. You can see it's really important to have critical in your traits. I quite like doing this. to secure the sudden maul, because you can see that if you land a crit, you get an attack duration buff here. So there you go, that's very important. I'm trying to show you the rotation, but it keeps resetting, it's a pain. There you are, you can use this spell to do area damage, but the targets really do need to be very close together. If it's a tactical situation, remember to make good use of your silence. It'll really annoy them. It'll stop them from using quite a few abilities. There you are, silence, you say. So, there you go. Right, we apply the slow. Right, we're going to use this. We're going to increase the damage here. Now, we're going to secure the attack buff here. Duration, you can see here, I've got the buff here. We can do a bit of AoE damage and apply a silence. We can reapply the buff here by cutting the animation, don't forget. If you need to reapply your debuffs, just do so. See, I can't because it's not a prayer. And then there you go, you just keep it going like that. You can cut that as well. Just to remind you, this skill, you can cut it with this one. And you reapply like that. Your damage on the target, the damage buff, you do it again, you cut the animation, you apply the debuff. Sorry, you apply it. The attack speed buff, right? There you go, you just keep it going like that. Personally, I really recommend using Scratch and Snip to secure your 25% attack duration buff on your sudden maul, because it will increase your overall DPS. You'll be able to cast more spells in the same amount of time than someone who doesn't have the buff. You can also apply Rabbit Bite. It applies a small debuff of 10% power cost. It's not amazing. Don't use it on burn-ins because, yes, without foot, they don't have any power, so it's pointless. But for all the others, you can. It's nothing exceptional, it's just a small debuff, but it's always worth having, so use it. Well, besides, it can be cleansed, so there you go. There you are. And there you go. If you like, I'll try to show you a full rotation for the raid. Right, so here I slow. I apply the debuff because it's very useful for the group. Now, I put this on the target. Now, I've unlocked the DPS buff. I'm securing my attack buff, duration. So now I'm going to resave the target. I apply the second dot. I cancel the animation with this spell. Here, if need be, I can do a bit of AoE damage. Now I can reapply the debuff while cancelling the animation. We can reapply the damage buff. Now we unlock Frenzy, which increases your critical hit chance. So that's very good. There you go, you can see that I've cancelled the animation there. Now we can secure the attack buff over time again. We reapply the damage buff to all spells. Now we're going to reapply the debuff for the group. Now we can reapply the debuffs to the target. We can fire at the target again. There you go, and so on and so forth. You keep cycling through like that and you're sorted. I hope you enjoyed this video. Quite a technical character. You might need quite a bit of practice to really master everything. Watch the video again if you need to go over a few tips. There are quite a few for this character. And I'll see you in the next video. There will be a video for the Warp Flyer, which is a different gameplay altogether. For me, it's got nothing to do with this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!